Rise and shout, my friends. Let's get to what's trending. BYU and TCU renew an old rivalry from the Mountain West days. We're getting there. Maybe this game will lead to something more.
Name the rivalry moment of TCU. No.
51-50, probably in 2005. Overtime, Gary Patterson in Provo. But it's been almost 20 years.
I know this isn't our topic, but it's not a rivalry quite yet. Perhaps later. You have to have moments that make it.
Sure. I see that word thrown out around BYU TCU. I think we need something to happen in Big 12 play for that to be reestablished.
Like BYU and UVU in basketball is more of a rivalry than BYU and TCU in football to me.
Okay. Well, maybe this will add to the fire that BYU fans are feeling as you go into the game at TCU in Fort Worth. Knowing that Chandler Morris, TCU's starting quarterback, has been officially ruled out. We learned that yesterday from TCU's media availability. He will not play. It's a backup quarterback that BYU will face. So I thought, okay, well, now clearly the line's going to shift more towards BYU, right? We'll probably see a couple of points.
Maybe a point or two or three?
No.
No.
It has moved a half point. Yep. TCU, in spite of having their starting quarterback out and having lost 2 straight to West Virginia and Iowa State, still a 4.5-point favorite against BYU after opening as a 5-point favorite. Knowing what you know about this team, TCU, the way they're trending, the key injury, and BYU coming off a bye week, would you keep the Cougars, the underdogs, still at that line, or make the Cougars maybe a favorite on the road?
I would not make BYU a favorite. The way BYU is playing is super contingent on takeaways. Like BYU's +7 in wins, -3 in the loss. So, no. Does it mean TCU is a better team? Not necessarily. It's just about drawing in bettors, okay? That's what the line is. But I would probably just have it at like 3, 3.5. But like 4.5. So it's not that far off what I think it should be. But remember, BYU operates better as a dog. +8, at Arkansas. Won the game. +10 at Kansas. You turn it over 3 times, 2 lethal turnovers, you lose. Cincinnati in some spots ended up being a pick'em by game time. And then you're +4.5, 5, depending on who you ask at TCU. I'm not bugged by this. And in fact, I would say I don't care, but I actually do care. I want BYU to be a dog. In fact, our second question of the day is, will BYU be a favorite in any game the rest of this season?
In any of the final 7.
Perhaps Iowa State at home and maybe at Oklahoma State, like depending on how BYU's playing at that point. Like those are the only 2 where BYU's got a shot at being the favorite. I'm okay with this because BYU loves the chip on the shoulder, no one thinks we can do it kind of thing. So I'm okay with it. I wouldn't move it that much because to me, in terms of the line itself, does not matter that much. But if you told BYU, hey, you guys stink, you're a double-digit dog in this, I think BYU shows up more motivated. Like they just do. It just seems like BYU functions better when no one thinks they can go to the SEC and beat Arkansas. And they did it. That kind of thing.
Do you think in any way, shape, or form the Vegas odds makers are reading anything into when the game kicks?
No.
Are they aware of that stat? Do you think that
I don't think they follow me on Twitter or Greg or Nate Slack or anybody.
Just are they aware that BYU is so much better at night compared to the afternoon over the last 5 years?
They look at trends. They look at trends. Well,
so maybe there's something to that.
6 kick thing. It's it's before. You're saying, because it's 1:30?
Yeah. They look at, hey, what's BYU's record been over the last 5 years in afternoon games compared to night games?
Perhaps.
All of those things. Yeah, so I wonder.
14 and 13.
If that plays a little bit into this. I'm ready for BYU to break out of that funk. I'm ready to not worry that a game is kicking off at 1:30 in the afternoon. It's Saturday.
Are you worried?
I'm concerned about this.
The set?
Yes.
Since 2019, just to state for those who don't know, since 2019, before 6 p.m. kick local to site, 14 and 13.
It's a coin flip.
It is, literally.
And that's at home and away,
That's
right?
everywhere.
We can break it up and look at the specifics of, okay, what about afternoon road kicks since that time? Maybe it's worse.
Right.
And I wouldn't be surprised if it is worse.
Oh, now I got to go sort.
Okay, so Jaron's going to sort his table.
Now I'm off to the Google sheet. Gosh, dang it.
I apologize for nothing.
Absolutely.
We're going to find out in just a second, but maybe there is something to it.
I don't know if I'm good.
This is why I'm not putting BYU as a favorite.
Yeah.
I'm leaning heavy into 1, road, 2, afternoon game, and it's still TCU, and BYU still has to stop the run against some very, very talented TCU running backs and a pretty solid offensive line. All right, Jarom, has your sorting tool come through for us?
I'm not ready.
I just can't. Thinking of, and I know some of you are like, it's superstitious. It has nothing to do with the time of day. Maybe there's something to it. It's time you believe over the last 5 years, these trends, that there is more to this, that there's a reason BYU is playing so well at night compared to a coin flip in the afternoon games. So I cannot, in my good conscience, expect BYU to be a road favorite, even if Chandler Morris is out.
Yeah.
I think if this game is played on a neutral site, maybe BYU gets like 1 point, maybe 2 points. But because it's in Fort Worth and home field typically means 3 to 3.5 points, yeah, it swings to TCU. I'd probably put the line at like TCU by 2. I don't think 4.5 or 5 is where it should be. But BYU is still an underdog, and they will have been an underdog in all 4 of their Power 5 games this year. And to the point you brought up just a few minutes ago, there's a real possibility that if Iowa State continues to play really well and that they've found something, and Oklahoma State builds some momentum after beating Kansas State, that BYU may not be favored in any of the 10 Power 5 games they play in this year.
I'm okay with that because BYU overcomes that quite a bit. Like last year, what was it? BYU led FBS in underdog wins or something. There was some stat, that I was like, oh, we can quantify
BYU's typically
that
good as an underdog. Steve Young was talking about that with us.
We just
Kansas.
like being undersold. Ancient Israel, pioneers, whatever. Like, nope, we coming out of the desert and we winning this thing. Like, for some reason, it's in our DNA. Okay, BYU's won 4 of the last 5 afternoon games, by the way.
1 and 4.
Yeah. No. Sorry, 1 4 of
1.
5. Yes.
4.
Before that, it was like a 4-game losing streak. But if you're just looking at P5, so Kansas is a loss.
Yes.
Arkansas was a loss. Notre Dame was a loss. This is before 6 p.m. starts. At Oregon was a loss. At Washington State was a win.
Okay.
At Baylor was a loss.
That's 2 and 4 through 6.
Washington and USC. I'm just looking P5 right now.
Split there, 3 and 5.
So yeah, P5's not been good, right? I didn't call out too many wins right there. So that's been tougher. P5, pre-6 since 2019.
When's the last time BYU won an afternoon game against the P5 on the road? Washington State in 2021?
On the road?
Was it Washington State in 2021?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so they've lost a few since that time.
Yes.
And you said Arkansas. That was in reference to the game in Provo last year, not the game that BYU won at night.
Correct. The day
in Fayetteville.
We're defining night as 6 p.m. or later, local kick. That is how we're defining it. Yeah. If it's a 5 start, like Texas Tech in 2 weeks, that is before 6 p.m., my friend.
I'm ready for this to not be a thing. I'm ready for BYU to just go play good football on Saturday afternoon and have this thing go away.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I'm not looking at when the game ends. Sorry, I'm not looking at durations of games. No, I'm just looking at when it kicks, okay? But, again, BYU's got a great chance to win this game. But my concern about BYU football right now is it's very contingent on takeaways. And field position. BYU's that plays into it, absolutely. Always does. But, if BYU cannot run the ball and does not take it away, I am concerned. What Iowa State did to win the game against TCU was take the ball away.
Yep.
They had 3 takeaways in meaningful moments. One was late and kind of garbage and whatever. The game was kind of out of hand at that point. But West Virginia, what they did was block kicks. They blocked 2 field goals in the 4th quarter. So let's see if BYU can't get the run game going, which coming up in the next segment, we'll discuss the following after the Deion Smith interview. Hey, Deion Smith, run.
Mm-hmm.
What is enough for BYU to win? I will tell you what Keaton Slovis thought the Cincinnati week, what was enough for that game. I don't know what he feels like will be enough for this game, but I'll tell you what he felt like was enough, and that number was lower than I thought.
I don't know if we can channel the BYU Sports Nation karma in some fashion to help this whole afternoon deal. But
I don't know. I think I'm the one like pumping it pretty hard.
And
here.
listen, this is not
I'm not saying BYU's losing. It's just there's something special.
This is not
night.
Yes, this is not lost on the coaches either. Like defensive coordinator Jay Hill, when he heard that stat, he said,
"You brought it up, coordinator's corner.
Maybe there's something to that. Maybe
we need to look at how we're prepping
exactly
during
the
the
preparation
day.
that goes into it, the timetables, the things that are happening. He's aware, which means the staff is aware.
Yeah.
Like if Jay's on it and he recognizes it, there will be attention given to it. So in Jay we trust.
Well, yeah.
Maybe he's the answer.
Because BYU's 25th in stop rate.
Win those
which
afternoon
is
games.
One of the best stats you can have.
Hey, Jay won a bunch of afternoon games at the FCS high level with Weber State. That's primarily when they kicked and when they played.
I'll give you that hard number of record versus P5s pre-6 p.m. in a second.
On the road or total?
I'll give you both.
I love your spreadsheets.
After the break, I'll give you the number.